every time I see acts of terrorism, I get sad and frustrated and angry. I'm assuming like everybody else. I was depressed about obviously what just happened in Paris. Upset about what happened in the United States on 9/11. I'm upset when I see terrorist acts on either side in Northern Ireland. I'm depressed about terrorist attacks against Palestinians in the West Bank by settlers. I'm depressed when I see terrorist attacks happening to Jews in Tel Aviv. I'm depressed when I see Kurds suffering through terrorism or Turks. I get depressed when I see what's happened to Iraqis, to Syrians, to Russians. We have a world full of communal violence, of state-sponsored violence, and terrorist groups on all fronts with various ideologies. And it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse because it's always been worse, because it's always been. As a person who teaches history, I feel like I'm just telling like a long set of series of violent stories. I mean, Europeans have been hacking up each other and killing each other up until World War II, by the way, right? There was no white solidarity, no Western solidarity during all those times. You know, before European settlers were from Britain were set to the United States continent, some people from my ancestral background, Lowland Scots and English, were sent to go pulverize a bunch of Catholic Celtic Irish in the north on their way to pulverize Native Americans here. And that is, you know, the main point I wanted to say is that in the British Isles there was no white Western culture. Tell that to a Welsh nationalist, an Irish nationalist, a Catholic Irish nationalist, Ulster Scots, a Highlander. Oh, these are all the same people. No. They've been fighting there for a long time. It's a forced peace. It's been, okay, somewhat. And you know, we've been seeing this unfortunate. We've just been seeing these things. You know, Basque separatists blowing things up. We see, you know. Again, I can just keep going on the list and list and list of things. And so here we are. Now, what's also frustrating to me is that every time a terrorist act happens, governments and mobs and other political groups will always take advantage of acts of violence to push another agenda. And so there's just more hatred, less freedom, less security. Where we go from there is usually not better. And that's what really bothers me, is the end result. That everybody says, oh, the terrorists won't win, but then the terrorists commit acts of terrorism, and then they do win. Alright, terrorists, ISIS, let's look at ISIS. They've killed more Muslims than they've killed anybody else. They think that they have this like ultra truth. They're utopianists that look to the past and think, oh, we're going to be this Islamic community that never existed in the first place, and we're going to attack all other people, not just people, but especially Muslims who have been doing it wrong. And so the irony is that when people now think of all Muslims as ISIS, that's exactly what the terrorists are wanting. Because when a mob or a group of people attack people from the Muslim community because of ISIS, you're attacking Muslims that ISIS already thinks is not acting Muslim enough. In other words, they deserve that, because if they were right, if they were the true Muslims, they would have been already joining ISIS. So whatever suffering happens to those people, it's irrelevant to them, and it may recruit somebody on that side that's just feeling like, well, if you're going to treat us like this, I might as well join. That's a perfect solution for what they want to see happen. Okay? And, you know, I mean, to me, it doesn't matter what we think about Islam or not. It's a religion. There's all these religions in the world, and all religions have been killing each other. And the best solution that's ever happened is when you have a multicultural society that doesn't allow one religion to be able to be on top of others. So you have a separation of church and state. You don't repress people's religions, you just make them politically irrelevant. And you have to do that consistently, okay? And not oppressively, and not targeting one or the other, or else it just creates this martyrdom victimization complex, and you're going to get more communal tension and violence, okay? That's what ends up happening. Now, let's also address the fact, why does Western Europe, that have so many people of color in their nations now that they don't want there, or at least certain elements don't want, why does France have such a large Islamic population? Because they colonized North Africa and the Middle East, and then they brought over all the people. So they go to other countries that they think are inferior to them to exploit their resources, and then allow those people who they think are inferior to them to come in large droves to their country, and then treat them in an inferior way, and then get surprised when you have like a youth riots coming out of the ghettos of some of these places. Why does the British Isles now have so many people from India? Well, remember India was the crown, the jewel in the crown of Britain, or how does that saying go? Because the sun never set on the British Empire. And how many movies did you watch? The Secret Garden. All these classics that were about English families, military families being in India. And now there's all these Indians in the British Isles. Well, why? Because the colonial legacy is that they then went to India, and then they brought a bunch of Indian people into their country, and now some people are complaining. Well, guess what, folks? You did this to yourselves. You have a multicultural society now. You did that. So, okay? The United States, same thing. The United States comes and they kill off most of the natives, and they're basically white, or a white country. And one group of people decided they want to force a bunch of people from another country, Africa, a continent, that they say that could never be integrated into our society, and then force them to come here, and imagine that you're going to keep a large population of people that you say that you could never be integrated with, and perpetually have them in slavery to your advantage. That is the stupidest form of racism I've ever heard of. Many of the people who don't like people that are black Americans the most in this country are the same people whose ancestors are the ones that forced them to come here out of their own free will in the first place. It's ridiculous. And there's several million people from Mexico illegally in this country. How did you get several million people? Because businesses wanted to get rid of minimum wage. They came here and they gave themselves cheap labor to businesses who profited. So we did this to ourselves. Okay? Now, if you want to get rid of large parts of your population that you don't think should be a part of your society now, you have to have a big military-like expedition to forcibly round up people and get them out. You are going to have a civil war. You're going to have massive communal wars. So this is what we're really coming to. Colonialism and imperialism created forced multiculturalism. And there's no going back. You're either going to have that, and we're going to have to work it out, or you have to have massive communal violence and basically ethnic cleansing, and perhaps really seeing civil wars. Because obviously if you try to expel a large group of people, one part of even your own society will not agree with that. So we are heading in this direction, I hate to say. This is what we're really coming down to. That there will be more terrorist attacks. I mean, look, we're heavily involved in that part of the world. We invaded Iraq. They didn't attack us, overthrew a system, and hoped that it would create something better. And instead, ISIS came out of the disenfranchised Sunnis that were upset with the Shiite theocracy that the United States ironically helped set into place. And so everything's affecting everything. And then Obama followed suit with the Bush idea and goes into Libya and helps create more chaos. Now, there's no tears shed over Saddam or Gaddafi, but what we're ultimately seeing is massive destabilization that the Western states have put into place, and now we have this massive refugee crisis. And so now, do we let thousands, if not millions, of people with their babies die? Or do we bring them in and also create a lot of social upheaval in our own societies? These are the choices that we're left with now. And these are the choices that people in power gave to us. So I kind of get where everybody is on all sides, but I'm choosing what side I'm going to be on. I've decided when everything's going down, I know what kind of person I want to be. I know what kind of way I want my neighborhood to live, and I don't want to see a civil war or communal violence. And whatever's going to take place, I'm willing to take responsibility for the position I'm taking, which is I'm not going to be a part of this. Nope. Okay? So that's me. And I'm very proud of my ethnic heritage. And why am I saying that? Because what I'm saying is that you know, the white ethnic concept, the European concept, the colonialism and imperialism already ended that to really take place in any kind of way as it was before. The world's not the way it was before anymore. And so I'd rather just get along with my neighbors and my fellow human beings and be with the good people. And this is where I'm going to go. We're all going to have to decide which side we're standing on. And we're all going to face consequences for it. This is the world we're stuck with right now. But I don't know. I love people as much as they drive me crazy. And I'm not going to participate in targeting large groups of people and punishing groups of people that aren't even responsible for what's going on. And that's really what we're going to start seeing. And even with more terrorism happening, even if I get attacked, it doesn't matter to me, because unless people make a principled stand, then we really will spin out of control, as it has always happened in all parts of the world throughout all history. So, you know, we're not getting worse, we're staying the same, and that's the problem.